doing today?
Oh, today we're doing I Choose to See My Brother's Sinlessness.
Is it a choice?
Yes, it
What?
is.
Talk that up.
Well, okay, so I'm going to talk it up in specific terms. So if I think that my brother, any sister, any person is wrong, bad, crazy, difficult, mean, damaging, sinful, if I'm thinking that, what this is saying is that's my choice. That's my choice. I have decided, first of all, to believe that I'm sinful. Hide that. Oh no, hide that. I'm not sinful. I'm innocent, right? The face of innocence. And who's sinful? My brother. Bad person. All of that is a choice that's going on in my mind. It's my will has been taken from the truth of who I am and given to the ego, which wants to make my personality big and strong at the expense of others.
Right. So you're projecting your own split mind on the
Yep.
situation, listening to the ego when it says, we can get rid of this guilt, just give it to somebody else.
Right.
And what this is saying, what you just said, you're doing that because that's what you want.
Right.
And that's where there's no order of difficulty in miracles, right?
Right.
Because I can change what I want.
Yeah.
I can recognize all my thinking begins with who do I see myself in?
Right.
I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm still. I continue to be. I'm at peace. I'm still as God created me.
Right.
So now here's the question to pick up on a lot of what Michael says a lot of times. So we want to see our badness or even sometimes our goodness in others, right?
Yeah.
However, we want to just get rid of what we think inside. The ego projects to get rid of something.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit extends to keep something.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, what do we do when their behavior is destructive? I'm talking about his idea of setting boundaries.
Yeah.
So even though I need to correct my thinking, if their behavior is one that's destructive and dysfunctional, what do we do about that? Isn't that the place where we have to really get guidance, set boundaries? Do I hang in there or do I leave?
And that's, to me, that's a question of guidance.
That's a question of guidance.
It's like, if we were completely enlightened, we would hang out with anything.
Right.
Maybe not. Remember how early on in the text it says, basically, don't throw your pearls before swine? That's from the Bible. But in the text it says, give your miracles where they're going to be used. Right. So if you're constantly trying to love someone in a behavioral way, and they're not receiving it, and they're continuing to attack, I think that's the time to ask Holy Spirit, am I wasting my time?
Right.
Because the whole purpose of the course could be expressed as trying to save time.
That's exactly what it is. Because first of all, we've never got rid of reality, and we will return.
Yeah.
Right. But at that conjuncture.
Yeah, we'd have to say, am I wasting my time? I know people who have wasted years and years of their lives trying to get a family member to get off drugs or to love them or, to be nice. And it's, I don't know. See, I can't say that they're wrong, but if it were me, I would seriously question if I'm constantly being told I am terrible and wretched and destroying somebody's life, if that's what's coming at me all the time and I feel depressed about that, I would have to think, why am I staying in this situation? Okay. Am I hating myself?
Right.
Am I using that person to hate myself?
Right, but let's back up to what you said about the principle of the issue. Right?
Okay.
So Jesus is always saying to us, just because it's a good thing to do isn't necessarily what you would do in a situation. And the reason for that is just what you're saying. Is he says, ask me about your issues of forgiveness or miracles or where you're going to offer your love, ask me, because I know where it will be received.
Yeah, that's
where
right.
I know who's open for the healing. And if you give in that situation, since giving is receiving, they will receive it. But since receiving and giving are the same, they will give it back.
You will experience it as love.
Right.
In the giving.
In the giving. So take an example, not of a lover or a spouse, but take the example of a child or a difficult person at work or whatever like that. That's where your guidance has to come in, because maybe you're meant to be the healer in that situation. And, and maybe it's a time for you to have patience with that.
And step up. Yeah.
But that's why we need guidance.
Yeah.
From the Holy Spirit and Jesus, because there's nothing worse than giving all of your love all the time and not having it land and not having it be received. I mean, you and I have talked about that so many times. It's not just having somebody to love you. You want somebody to love you, but you also want somebody who's capable of receiving your love, because what we're trying to prove to each other, or what we're trying to prove in the Course, is we're loving and we're lovable.
Right.
That's what we're trying to learn. I'm lovable and I'm loving, and so are you, no matter what the behaviors are.
Right, right. So I'm thinking about some things that I read in the notes, Helen's original notes, and they're in the complete and annotated edition of the Course, the big fat one. Twice Jesus says, ask me what miracles you should offer or extend, and which ones you should not do.
Right.
And he's really adamant, don't do those I don't tell you to do, because you're wasting your time. You're actually depriving yourself.
Right. But he's very gentle about that. I mean, he works with us, has patience with us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. And this might be a nice time to talk about guidance, or do you want to stick on today's topic?
We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Wait, there's another scrum.
I'm thinking about ways of receiving guidance.
Yeah.
And everybody has different ways. One of the things I do, as you know, is I journal. And I do it in the very much the way that Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist's Way. It's just write. Do not stop writing. Don't stop to think. Don't try to form your words. Just write and write and write. And what that does is empties the mind of both garbage and great stuff. And I do it prayerfully. Sometimes I start out, Dear Jesus, and it's like I'm trying to keep in contact as if he's my therapist or something, but it's like, that's one really good way of getting guidance. Not that I'm going to write down what God says to me, but I can see what my ego is doing with the situation. Right. And I can reject that. So that's one way. How about you?
Well, I just want to talk a little bit about what you just said. So, in all these spiritual systems, there's theory and philosophy. Then there's mythology. There's a story that goes with that. But then there's always something like a ritual. And a ritual is like repeating God's name or doing certain behaviors.
Doing the practice.
But what I hear you saying is, by these physical actions of writing it down, it keeps you connected to Source.
It does, because it slows down my mind enough to see what my thoughts are.
Yeah.
It's still only thoughts, but that writing does help.
Right.
Of course, prayer helps, but this is a form of prayer for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So you asked about my idea of guidance. So let's bring it back to today's lesson.
Yeah.
Okay. Because in here, I choose to see my brother's sinlessness. Mm-hmm. And what he's saying here is, your experience is a function of what?
Your decision, your choice.
And before that, what's the criteria?
Oh, who am I? What am I?
And what do I want?
And what do I want?
Right?
You're always asking me these quiz questions.
Well, I know you know the answer. But I want to get to this point about guidance.
Yeah.
Because what he's saying in guidance is, don't go and ask, what should I do? Where should I go? Don't do all that. Bring into your awareness, what do you really want?
What do you really, really want?
And that takes time, and that takes learning, and
Right.
it takes because we're not always clear about our intentions. We're not
Right.
always clear about what we want,
Right.
right? And so for me in guidance, it's getting clear about what do I want? What do I really want?
Yeah.
Right? And that takes a certain amount of training. It takes a certain kind of education. But the beauty of it is that when I recognize how powerful my wanting system is,
Yeah.
and I'm not, the whole thing in the Course is not to pathologize,
Right.
not to make your wanting bad,
Right.
because
right.
your wanting is your whole way out.
Yeah.
What he says is the whole universe, everything is just a function of your wanting.
Yeah, that's what this lesson is saying.
And
too.
that's what this lesson is saying. So we want to get to this point where we're not saying, oh, I'm in trouble because I want all the bad things. Don't pathologize your wanting. See how powerful it is.
Yes.
And that's what this is trying to say to us, is that we can see them through forgiveness, but it's a choice.
And we want what forgiveness offers.
That's right.
Like what's in, what is it, lesson 122? I want to see if I can find that list of amazing things.
Yeah. Do you want, there, that one or the one before it?
Or the one afterward. Here it is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so listen to this. See if this is what you want.
So this is part of this lesson, is remembering what you want. And this is a lesson that says forgiveness offers me everything I want. And what does it say?
Do you want peace? Forgiveness offers it. Do you want happiness? Sure. A quiet mind, a certainty of purpose, and a sense of worth and beauty that transcends the world? Well, sure. Do you want care and safety, and the warmth of sure protection always? Definitely. Do you want a quietness that cannot be disturbed? Well, when I've had that, I really, really enjoy it. A gentleness that never can be hurt. A deep, abiding comfort and a rest so perfect it can never be upset. And it goes on with more. That's lesson 122 if you want to bookmark it.
Right. And so that's exactly where we get to in our choices when we're looking at somebody else, when it's an unfavorable perception of them or unfavorable perception of ourselves. We bring it back to this lists like that. Do I want protection all the time? Do I want a sense of beauty and worth that transcends? And the reason he's putting that up there, because he's saying, here's what judgment gives you.
Yeah.
And here's what here's what you can get from forgiveness.
Right.
And remembering how big those gifts are.
Right.
Like there's nothing more precious than peace of mind.
Yeah, and usually when we're unforgiving, it's because we want something, like you're always saying, something that'll show up in the future.
Yeah.
It's like, I want him to behave a certain way.
Right.
Or I want that thing, and that person's behavior threatens it.
Right.
We want something, but we're just confused about whether that thing, that behavior, that object, situation, whatever, is going to give us those tremendous gifts.
Right.
And of course they don't. So when we really look at what do we really want, really, then we can put all of our desire, all of our energy, our passion into that.
Right.
Into forgiveness.
You know, one of the things you and I talked about in this is when we're talking about how powerful your wants are, that your wants are the key. They're going to give you experience. The way that you see others and yourself is based upon your wants, your intentions, all that thing. It's important to say that if I'm miserable and if I'm suffering, yes, it's there because you wanted it, but you're just confused about what you really want.
Right.
Because what he's saying to us is, I want a happy learner.
Right.
I want a happy learner. Learning is joyful.
Yeah.
And it's so important to get that the lessons, they may seem hard, but true learning is joyful, right? So he says your problem is that you think misery is happiness. You think there's no gain without pain, that kind of idea. And that's what we got to scotch. Like, learning truly is joyful. And so to be a happy learner is to recognize, well, the misery's there because I thought I wanted that. But what I was really wanting is happiness.
Yeah.
And I thought I had to go through misery and I had to go through pain. And all that was not listening to guidance about where should I give my love, where should I give my healing. And I should be giving it at a place where it would be received. So it's given back to me.
Yeah. And so we have to mention, sometimes it doesn't show up immediately. But if you're given guidance, so I'm going with a question about healing in the manual, where it says, well, what if you don't see a result right away when you've offered the healing? Let it go. That's over. You did it. You did your part. Because as soon as you realize it's the Holy Spirit here,
right,
joining as one, the Holy Spirit there's only one. It has been complete.
Right.
So let's say I'm the miracle worker here. I have gotten out of my body identification, out of my desire for your body to be different. I've let the body go and said, who I am and who you are is one perfect aspect of the Christ. Done. And if you still, whine, complain, and feel sick and miserable, I just go like, well,
yeah,
big deal. I've done my job. Now that is how I interpret what the Course is saying.
I know that's absolutely right, because you see, what's key about this is he's defining what our role is and what the Holy Spirit's role is. And so it's this understanding that nothing's going to happen unless I want to turn it over to the Holy Spirit. Nothing can happen until I do that. But once I say, Holy Spirit, show me how to see this situation, show me what you would have me do, then it's done. Because really what we're doing is giving an idea about who we are.
Yeah.
That's really what we're doing.
Yeah,
you are a child of God.
Our mind has a light that can shine into another's and enlighten it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so clarifying our role, we have to be the one to get it started.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit's not going to force us into anything. We have to really want this. But then once we do, then we realize he's already done it.
Yeah.
Because we asked him to do that.
So you hit on something that I think is really valuable for those of us who explore spiritual systems and all of that. The Course is definitely not telling us to kill our desires.
Exactly.
Not at all. It's, Jesus in the Bible said, be hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, I'll vomit you out of my mouth.
Well, okay.
It's pretty. It's like, don't be apathetic. Don't be, whatever. It's all an illusion. Don't go there. Use the energy that you have as desire, and maybe it had in the past been misapplied. Just, that's like having a powerful vehicle. Just turn it around. Go for what's really going to make you happy and use that desire. Then I also wanted to mention choice, like this lesson.
But hang on to the choice thing, because I want to get the text reference on what you just said about the wanting.
Okay.
So
it's in chapter 21.
Yeah. So he's just saying that you have to ask the Holy Spirit, decide for God for me, decide for miracles for me. You have to do that. And yet for this, the power of your wanting must first be recognized. In other words, I'm responsible for whatever I experience.
Yes.
But then what he says, you must accept its strength and not its weakness. You must perceive that what is strong enough to make a world can let it go.
Yeah.
So you have to see your wanting as a strength.
That's
not,
right.
I chose misery again. I didn't know I was doing it. Done with that.
Yeah.
My wanting is what's going to get me out.
Yeah.
All right, so now bring it back to choice.
Okay, so this lesson tells us that we never see our brother as he is in reality, the Christ Spirit, because that's beyond perception. We can hold that idea in our minds, but we don't see the full glory of who each person is. What I see in him, my brother, is merely what I wish to see, because it stands for what I want to be the truth. So that means if I'm looking at the world and I'm seeing it full of criminals, that's what I want to see. That chapter 21, responsibility for sight, is really important. It's like projection makes perception. It starts here, it goes out there, and then when it's done with ego, it appears that it just exists without my choice. My desire had nothing to do with it. I didn't want him to kick me. Well, I did want to be hurt.
Okay, but it's important to get there. That's not really what we wanted.
No.
We're confused.
We made that choice.
See, it goes back, all this pain and understanding this goes back to this whole idea of the ego, which is in this, the theme of these lessons is the whole ego's program is just to replace love. It's just to replace God.
Right, with fear.
And it actually thinks it's done that.
Yeah.
But having done that, it's like it said in this, what is the ego? You believe you killed God. You believe that you killed your true self. You believe that you killed love. And yet, you're so insane, you think that God that you killed is going to punish you. Yeah. So if you're still trying to replace God, you punish yourself.
Right.
That's all that's going on.
Right.
It doesn't, and we're not talking about a behavior level.
No.
We're talking about the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
And wanting to see that.
And then everything comes from that.
That's right.
It's like go back to the core. That's why in the Course, that statement, I am as God created me, it appears how many times? Like 40 times or something.
Yeah.
So if we remember who we are still, and when I say we, I don't mean just this one here. I mean all of us, who we are as the sonship. Wow. What was I thinking when I thought I had to have the situation turn out just exactly the way little me thought it should be?